Yes, good morning all. Today we have with us the eminent personality Dr. Manish Kurhekar sir from VNIT Nagpur. Welcome sir. I would like to request Dr. Neeta Thakre ma'am to welcome Dr. Manish Kurhekar sir with a sample. Thank you ma'am. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce today's resource person, Dr. Manish Kurhekar. He is Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, VNIT Nagpur. He completed his graduation BE Computer Science from VNIT Nagpur and then from IIT Bombay. And he completed his PhD from VNIT Nagpur. He has worked with multinational companies like IBM India, Research Lab, New Delhi, Persistent System Nagpur, Textile Instrument Bangalore. He has published more than 26 research papers in reputed international journals and conferences, 12 SEM and SCIE journals and other R&D conferences. He has to credit 3 international patents. He is associated with 5% principal check costing approximately 1.5 crore. He has 4 PhD scholars working under his guidance. I request Dr. Manish Kurhekar sir to proceed for the session.
Okay, so next the slides. Fine. So today we are going to talk about AI in agriculture. Let's start here. It's okay with you.
Yes.
Clear, right? Am I audible at the back?
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, so we are going to talk about AI in agriculture, and today's topic is basically how government and in industries are trying to make agriculture more sustainable, more economical, more feasible by having digital or AI based, computation based interventions. Okay. So we are going to talk about that, and we are going to talk about a few things that government has enabled, and a few things that people are working on, and sample research projects that are being done. So this I have adopted from the Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India's slides. The data of the slides have been taken from there, and I have tried to present it so that it appeals to people who are from CS, IT, electronics background. I think everyone has that background, right? So yeah, so this is the typical agenda. What is the digital public infrastructure for agriculture? Digital crop survey, Krishi Mapper, and NGP. Okay, next. So this is the digital public infrastructure for agriculture. It has three major registries. Okay. One is about the farmer, another is about the so every farmer gets an ID, typically like we have Aadhaar card. So there is farmer ID. Then we have geo tagging of the villages and plots and references. That's in another register. And then there is crops that are sown, that are basically produced. So that's the third register. Okay. Each of these registries are actually being active as of now. And Government of India, like we have Aadhaar database, we have different databases that like PAN databases, Aadhaar databases. These databases are getting created, and surveys are going on. And this is resulting into this is also resulting into a uh, nationwide data that can be analyzed, that can be looked into, that can be processed, so that we get a feasible, more feasible knowledge about how uh, the agriculture produce is going to look like. And so we are going to see some examples of that. Okay. And there is a lot of things that CS people can contribute. Okay. Though obviously, standalone CS applications are rare or few, but combined with electronics, so you have certain images or you have certain. I think that's okay. उसको उठा लीजिए
हाँ आवाज आ रही है
प्लीज
नहीं नीचे करो ना तो एकदम अटैच हाँ बज रही है विंडोज बंद करो विंडो बंद है क्या
I think this is okay.
नहीं बजे
Okay, fine. Thank you. So, actually, what happens is that typically the data that we have been working with, CS people, has been very fixed in the sense that if you take a number as input, either it will be prime number or not, right? So there is no variability. But when you talk about the data that is concerned with living organisms, whether it be plants, whether it be animals, whether it be humans, we see that there is a lot of variability. And this variability actually results in a lot of difficulties in deciphering what this data is telling us. Okay? And that's why large amount of data is needed to sample it out or to say that this particular data resembles certain things. Okay? Not only that, there is an amount of moral ethical issues involved, there are an amount of economical issues involved, and those things uh, are also kind of involved in doing things this way. One example I can give you is that recently we were involved in sorting of oranges near Morshi. Okay. So these oranges come with uh, so typically a farm is directly purchased by merchant and the entire oranges are just plucked out. Okay. They are filled in a truck and then they are transferred. Now what happens is that there are many errors if a manual sorting is done. So instead, can sorting be done using automated methods? So there is a machine which is installed. It has three different cameras. There is infrared camera, there is visual range camera, there are other cameras. And based on that, it basically sorts these oranges. So you put oranges on one side, they will roll down, and then the gate will open and put it in one of the three baskets. So the high quality typically are for export, the medium quality is for domestic market, and low quality typically goes for orange juices or animal feed and so on. Right? So you don't know when you get orange juice, you don't know from where it has been manufactured, right? What kind of orange is it? So, you see that. Uh, so this kind of things happen. So low quality typically goes for animal or industrial purposes. So what is done later, that depends on further sorting. But then you have a machine which does the job much faster and much accurate. Right? So this was a success. Then there was another project we were involved in, again with oranges. So what happens is that with like the wind like this, there are oranges which fall down. So oranges fall down because of two reasons. Either they are very ripe or they are deceased. Okay. So in a field of 1 acre, let's say, you have a certain number of oranges falling down every day. Now there are some good oranges. They have fallen down because they have become ripe and they have fallen down. So if you pick them up and go to the market, you will get some price for it. But then there are some oranges which need to be thrown away or which you need put in a pit so that it becomes a manure that can be used. Now what happens is that one worker when employed to pick the oranges in 1 acre typically charges 300 rupees. 250 to 300, that's the going rate for today. Now for 1 acre, when you pick those oranges, then those oranges need to be picked up and then after paying 250 rupees, the market rate that you get for the oranges should be more than, that includes transportation and other things, should be more than 250, otherwise there is no profit. Otherwise it's better to let them degrade and become manure, go to the soil and so on. Now we had one drone which took the aerial photography field and then found out how many oranges are actually pluckable. And then based on the analysis, then we decided we will employ the person to pick the oranges or not. But we found that that is not having that much accuracy than a person who just stand, a person who is experienced, just stands in the field, looks around, is that कि नहीं आज ये फायदे का नहीं है. So you see that sometimes humans make more sense than automating. Sometimes automation works better. So there are pros and cons, and so not all automation projects succeed. So one example is we had succeeded in so Zoho, which has started in Nagpur. They have an office on Imnar on this road which goes to Wadi Imnar road. So they have sponsored two such machines in Nagpur. These were the first two machines, and they earlier had some different fruit. Now they have been modified for oranges, and they are doing a very good job for oranges. So that is a success story, and a lot of orange merchants can actually use that facility by paying some fees. Whereas the other one is not so successful, and that drone thing was not successful. So it was. So we did experiment, we did calculations and so on, but we found that this has not worked. So all automation things do not work, but some work. Right. So typically, this is what the story of the farmer sees. So you have small land, and so typically they are not literate or less literate. And what kind of problems they face? They don't know the quality of pesticides and fertilizers. How do you figure out the quality of? They depend on the person. They have to borrow money at high interest rate because they are not into the banking system. They need to spend a lot of money to get the free Kisan cards. Uh, they don't know what kind of market is available for which crop. Right. So today's news is that millets, which were cheap, jwari, and bajra and all, they have become costlier than wheat and rice because there is huge demand for millets because of the international year of millet and other things. So jwari bajri is more costlier than the wheat. Okay. So you see that, but they don't know because that has never been done there. There are post-harvest losses because they don't know about the modern technologies of cold storage and other things. And obviously they don't know how to submit forms, so they have to repeatedly do it. That wastes their time. Next. So, so this is what the agri stack. Uh, so when you talk, what we mean by stack? A stack is typically a set of softwares which provide a service. So there is an Aadhaar stack, there is a UPI stack, there is this agri stack. So that's why if you have Aadhaar stack, you see that you can authenticate at the Airtel center also, right? Because they are subscribed to it, right? So you take Aadhaar to Airtel, they do authentication. You go to a bank, they do authentication. You can open an online stock market broker account by using Aadhaar because they have registered with that Aadhaar stack. So authentication can be done. So similarly, agri stack is now proposed, which will have all the things that is related with agriculture. And similarly, there will be other people who can plug it into this stack using the APIs. They can use authentication techniques. So there is identity, there is assets, and there is transactions. All these things together make the agri stack. Okay, so authentication will authenticate the person and the entities. Uh, Digital assets will have electronic data and electronic signatures, so on. And transactions will provide for market access, inputs, credits, and so on. ONDC is the new kid on the block. So that's the government promoted e-marketplace like Amazon and Flipkart. And many companies are trying to get the local kirana shops on ONDC. So this is something that you'll see a big breakthrough in the next year. That everyone would be on board. A lot of work is happening in this area. Okay, next. Uh, so graph shown the history will have the actual data and with an Android app is developed for this. The photograph can be taken, and now you have in any phone you have GPS, you have geolocation, right? If you go to Google Maps, you can pinpoint where you are standing, right? So same technology is being exploited here. You can have this, and this gives you the GPS, the time, and the photograph gives you the information. So this becomes a single source of truth. Okay. Next. So this different states, the proof of concept is given. Next. Okay, next. Okay. So there are. So if you see, these are all the people who are getting benefited from digitalization, and you can submit projects to them as well. And many of these projects typically get funded from different ministries and so on. So there are Ministry of Agriculture, Financial Services, Consumer Affairs, Food Distribution, NABARD is there. So all of these people are interested in digitalization. The more information gets stored online, the better it becomes for the companies to target the population. Okay, so instead of doing advertisement or doing surveys, it's always better to have target audience so that you can have a more focused expenditure because you have a limited budget for reaching out to people. So if you can do a targeted thing, like I want to only reach out to mirchi farmers, or I want to reach out to only marginal farmers. Right? So if you have a registry available, then it is easier for you to reach out. Right? So everyone is interested in having digitalized information so that focus is done on these things. So a few days back, we had gone to Ankur Seeds. So Ankur Seeds is one of the big uh, seed manufacturing company in this part of India, central India. They are on the Amravati road, around 30-40 kilometers on the Amravati road from Nagpur. And so they had two, three problems. One of the things is that the seed companies have to guarantee if the seed fails, then they have to compensate the farmers. Right? So if the seed fails, they have to compensate the farmers. What farmers do, or that the company suspects, is that they purchase some amount of seeds from them. If they have large farms, so they use different seeds in different farms, and whichever seed fails, they claim it, saying that this is the company from which we have purchased. So there are many disputes that happen, and many times the compensation gets rejected or delayed, and there is a lot of stress in the farmers company relationship. So can you have blockchain based? So blockchain you can't have the data that can be manipulated. Can you have blockchain based approach where every transaction with the seeds can be tracked using photographs, and so when you sow the seeds, when they grow up, when they sprout, right, when you purchase, right, so every transaction with the seeds, either on the ground or on the above the ground, can it be tracked on a blockchain? And then uh, when we sow the seeds, so we had put this in the last year's hackathon also. There was a hackathon by ICAR, and it was in the top 5 shortlisted. It did not win the prize, but our team was shortlisted in the top 5. But this is one of the problems that Ankur Seeds and many other seed companies also similar to them will be having. That how to reduce, the question is how to reduce the conflict between the users of seeds and the providers of seeds. So blockchain was one thing that we had thought, and but it is very heavyweight, and so we could not make a very convincing Android app for that. Can a simplified version be available? With that, you can go to Ankur Seeds, you can think about it, and you can provide a solution for it. So there are many problems of this kind where IT intervention can help. Okay. Next. Okay. So next slide. Right. So here we see that there is a lot of registries are there, and these are typical use cases using these registries. So not only the registries are important. Once you know the registries, you can create the applications for different stakeholders. So there might be finance applications. So every bank is mandated to provide a certain loan percentage of their loan portfolio for farmers. I think it is 1.5% or 2%. So that much amount of loans should be given for farming. The rest of the loans you can give for industrial, housing, car, this and that, but education loan and so on. But some amount, I think 2% is. But then the recovery of farmer loans is sporadic, less. Many times the banks are forced to waive it off. So a lot of problems are there. So can that be done in a much transparent way? So you can use that. Then there are access to wider markets. So this is another thing that is coming up. So we had a few days back uh, at Kushi Sammelan here, in Dhaba, Agro. So you could have seen that a lot of such technologies are there which can help in finding out the diseases or finding out uh, when when the crop grows, like how much water, irrigation, how do you track the irrigation, and how do you track the growth, how do you track the diseases, and so on. But post market, have you anybody visited agrovision? Post harvest, how many technologies are there? Nothing. After you cut the crop, what do you do after that? Right? Is there anything like, because 60% of the produce actually gets degraded or wasted, right? So, but then there are many cold storages, there are many logistics improvements that can be done. There are many simple strategies like waxing the produce so that it uses less water and its shelf life increases. Warehousing is there. So this area is currently completely available, where projects can be defined, projects can be done. Okay. And um, and that is where something CS people, logistics improvement, CS people can help them. How to improve the logistics so that these are all perishable products. Every day the value goes down. Every hour the value goes down. So how do you have minimal impact of time, reduce the impact of time, and improve the connectivity? So can some such thing can be done? So this is an area not even agrovision had anything there. Such a big thing, nothing was there. So the only place where I could find was one stall of NCDEX. So NCDEX is basically a stock exchange for farm produce. Like we have NSC and BSC. So NCDEX actually sells soybean and harbara and wheat and bajra and so on. But the thing is that they sell only those products which have at least a shelf life of 6 months. So like soybean, like wheat, 6 months you can store it. Obviously, they will take all care. They will have fungicide and this antibacterial things put up so that there is no fungus or bacteria growth or other things or insect growth there and insecticides and so on. But wheat can be stored for 6 months, rice can be stored for 6 months, soybean can be stored for 6 months. So for that, they have warehouses, and the transaction has to be done in tons. So there are different warehouses. So the nearest warehouse is in Chinwada for soybean, and soybean is in 5 tons. So minimum quantity of sell by you have to do is 5 tons. So, uh, but then they do all sorts of uh, processing so that the produce is fresh for 6 to 8 months. But such a thing is not available for other produce like fruits or vegetables. So no market exists of this kind, and that's why we are seeing that logistics is one of the things that needs to be improved so that this kind of market is available. Okay, next. So you see that typically nowadays satellite imagery is also making a lot of strides in the sense that you can take a picture of the earth with a typical particular wavelength. So it has been found that certain crops respond to a typical wavelength. Not all crops reflect the same wavelength with the same intensity. So based on the intensity and the wavelength, you can figure out. So for example, here there is a figure that how many wheat fields are with low yield wheat and how many wheat fields are with high yield. So depending on that, you can figure out and get an estimate how much wheat is going to get produced, how much rice is going to get produced, how much onions are going to get produced. So when onions are going to go 200 rupees a kg and when they are going to fall 2 rupees a kg, right? So that can be estimated. And yeah, next. So so typically pre-harvest and harvest, these two things are we are seeing there's a lot of intervention that are happening and a lot of companies and startups are coming up. The next 2 points, the post-harvest and markets, then logistics service providers, quality assurance, traceability, and market linkages. These things are still not available to that extent. Next. Uh, so here is an example of M Mapper, Krushi Mapper. So you can take a photograph, you can label it, and it gives a lot of information. So this is being done uh, so that a registry is maintained where you can now have how the field is progressing. So next slide. I think next slide. Next. So this is the national e-governance plans, and there are a lot of funds available. In this you can put in the project, and these projects will get funded. So typically there are these 6 technologies that they talk about: remote sensing and geographical information systems (GIS). So that is basically for processing the satellite data, uh, the long range data. This data can be purchased from ISRO and other websites. Nowadays, even international satellite agencies also provide data which can be purchased. Some amount of data is free. More granular data is can be purchased. Data analytics, monitoring real-time information and planning. AI, machine learning typically are used in pest surveillance and detection. Internet of Things and sensors for soil health. So soil health basically means that how much nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus is present in the soil. So soil health, soil moisture, pests, and even waste, agriculture waste, how much agriculture waste is there on the ground. So typically for dense trees like tea, coffee, which grow very dense, uh, the agri waste is a big problem because a lot of leaves settle down and they basically the insect starts breeding there and that may cause loss of production. Robotics, weeding robots, seeding robots, autonomous farm machinery. There is a huge progress here in robotics and in agrovision. I don't know if you have seen this Mahindra tractors and all. A lot of things can be done. Drones, drones are nowadays getting traction for pesticide spraying, imaging. images, yield assessment, health assessment, and so on. So these are some of the projects that were sanctioned by the government, and you can see that farmers database you can create also. So these projects have already been done. Then e-project based e-project on, that is the 8th number, on email based crop health checkup for paddy crops, right? Uh, so these kind of projects can be done. Next, so 15 you can see geospatial analysis decision support system for agricultural development. Then so you can see that a lot of such, the 10th one, precision farming and groundwater availability, and finding out how much groundwater. So lots of such projects were sanctioned, and even institutes are encouraged to apply for these kind of projects. Okay, so obviously there are problems with this, delay in submission of proposals, and if the proposals, so a lot of, we know that. Next. Okay, so how is Indian agricultural sector looking up? We are food grain surplus, but we have high wastage. 80% of the population lives in rural areas and depends on agricultural production. It's directly or indirectly. Urgent need to diversify agriculture to address emerging food demands and habits and dietary problems. Need for climate smart agri technologies to tackle climate change issues. Okay, why are these problems coming up? The reasons are twofold. The first thing is that a lot of automation is happening. So the tractors which were costing around 5 to 6 lakhs 20 years, okay, now we are seeing miniature size tractors having more power than the earlier tractors, are more precise than the earlier tractors, but costing the same, around 5 lakhs 6 lakhs. In 20 years, the uh, the pricing capacity, or basically the spending capacity of the farmers and everyone has gone up. 5 lakhs 20 years back was a big amount. 5 lakhs today is a moderate amount. It's not very big amount. It is manageable, right? So we see that lot of this automation is happening, because of which the changes are happening is like you don't need those so many bullocks. So livestock is decreasing. Because of the decrease in livestock, the alternate revenues are also decreasing for farmers. Alternate source of revenue. Earlier, if you had a bullock cart, pair of bullocks, you can rent them to others. You can use a bullock cart. Okay. And so there was an alternate source of income. But now that need is not felt because of automation is happening. So alternate revenue is decreasing. One. Second, this automation is able to do the work much faster, much better, much precise for larger amount of land than earlier possible. Because of which so many people, 80% of the population is not needed to do farming. The same farming can be done by 1/4 or 1/3 people. Still you yielding the same amount, or probably more than the earlier ones. Okay. So then what to do with this? So if so many hands are empty, what will they do? Right? So uh, that's why there are more skill-based things that need to be done. More education needs to be done, and these people can be employed for surveying the lands, then uploading data. So the more different kinds of work profiles need to be created. So government is trying two ways. One is this automation is going to happen because that's the economic need. The farmers know that they are going to get better things. So on the other hand, the government needs to create more jobs, different profiles of jobs for the educated populace who are staying in the rural areas. And so they needs to diversify. People need to get engaged in logistics. People need to get engaged in data collection. People need to get engaged in transportation, and so on. So that uh, there is more productivity and there is more value addition to the produce, right? And that basically means that more skills need to be imparted. So software or computers has become a service field. So wherever it enters, it results first in job losses because there is automation that happens. But it creates newer jobs because those jobs were non-existent earlier. But because of the automation, these newer jobs are more important. Right? How you can gain importance. And what uh, government is doing is trying to run such projects, and there are many such. Even like I don't know if your college has Unnat Bharat Abhiyan chapter. So VNIT is the nodal agency for that. So there such projects get funded, and so they are supposed to be done by students. And there are many such schemes. So Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is one scheme. There are Stand Up India is another scheme. So there are many such schemes through which these kind of projects where capacity building at the rural level, problem solving at the rural level is encouraged. So that newer kinds of jobs, newer kind of profiles can be provided even to the rural areas. And if successful, they can be replicated across India. Okay, so next. So typically, this agriculture, as we know, is a very risky enterprise because if everything goes according to the plan, only then at the end you get the rewards. Otherwise, what happens is that even if certain things uh, change or fail, then you can't realize the entire rewards. You see that there can be a market risk, post-harvest risk, ecological risk, production risk. So many things can happen because of which things can get negative, right? So now you see that there is this storm, which is basically running from Chennai to nearer to Vijayawada, and then it will go till north Andhra Pradesh, and then it will go calm down. But what we see is that the entire crops which are standing there, right? So this is the wind that is gusting at 20 km per hour. And still we are seeing that it has so much energy. There the winds are gusting at 150 kilometers per hour. They will flatten all the crops. Right? They will uproot the trees. Okay, so we will see that lot of damage happens because of such natural calamities. And this happens. There are a lot of things that can go wrong. The things were just fine a few days back. Okay, I was in Vijayawada last Monday. And it was sunny and it was so warm that I had to put in AC for while I was sleeping. It was so hot. And today we see that it's completely underwater. So, it is unpredictable. Weather is unpredictable. So many things are unpredictable. And doing a business is risky. And but the rewards are multifold. This is that the amount of money you put in agriculture can multiply 10 times or even 20 times in one go. In 1, 3 months, 4 months time, you can reap the benefit which is 10 times of your input, which cannot happen in any other place. But is a big but, because any of these things can happen and you can go wrong. Right? While you are planting onions, the rate might be 200 rupees a kg. By the time you basically harvest it, it will be 2 rupees a kg. Right? You never know what happens. Like you must have heard that truck full of tomatoes have been thrown away by farmers because they are not getting the value for it. So this happens, and how to protect against this? So that means that we need better storage capacities, cold storage, so that these tomatoes which are available at a cheaper price can be frozen. We get frozen peas. Everybody buys frozen peas. Right? They are available throughout the year. But peas are small. They are required in smaller amount in any household. So if you buy 200 grams peas, they can last you for 1 week, or at least 3 to 4 days. That doesn't happen with tomatoes, right? So tomatoes. So how that economics of tomatoes can work? So that is again a research problem. It can be thought of as a game theory problem, that or auctions problem, where auctions of perishable items can be done. How those? So it's a big. I don't know how many people work in algorithms or related areas. So auctions are a very well studied problem. Game theory is a well studied problem. So you do negotiations and you win, meaning you make profits only if you do it in a certain ways. Right? So that can be mathematically modeled, and based on that modeling, you can run simulations and figure out uh, when and how buying or selling can be done. Unfortunately, across India, nobody is doing it, even in IITs or IIS. So, or maybe pockets of people are doing, I am not aware of that. But there is no large scale impact of such things. So that is an open area when government is looking for such things. And next. So, uh, so canvas for ICTs for agriculture. You see that there can be private farmers, farmers to consumers, okay, peer to peer, research to farmers, government to farmers, all kinds of things are possible. And there are many things that can be automated, and these projects can be floated. Many of these projects, the government funds such kind of projects. The banks also fund such kind of projects. Even Ankur seeds kind of things are also looking for such kind of projects, because they don't have manpower and time. These kind of projects can be floated with students as well. So a lot of people are looking at these things, but maybe in 5-7 years down the line, we will see a very different agriculture that we are seeing now. But as of now, a lot of things are open. As of so, so for example, I'm giving you one example here. There is one company which has made this. So farmers can register. Forgot to mention that company's name. Uh, so farmers can mention so they get SMS messages of when to sow, and so you can have a decision tree. Go to the next slide. There is a decision tree there. I don't know. Let me read that. So week 1, was the rain last week? See the foot of one. If it was yes, was it less than 10 mm or greater than 10 mm? And what is the next week forecast? If it is still greater than, then you can build such a decision tree. This decision tree is based on the farmer's experience as well as the experts in agriculture. And then a message on the mobile phone is given because the farmers typically have feature phones that when to sow, when to plant seed, when to wait, okay? And so it can be for, so farmers can register for a particular crop. I want SMSs only for agriculture, for groundnuts. So this is for groundnut. GN is for groundnut. So such kind of uh, decision support systems can be made. Okay? And this can be learned from the ground data as well as from expert knowledge that can be converted into this kind of structure. And then depending on which week you are in, what was the last week rain, what is the forecast for next week rains, you can decide whether uh, whether to plant or not to plant, or will there be any possibilities of pest or outbreak or so on. Next. So here are the typical three things that are very popular now for automation of agriculture. One is the sensor networks, that is the Internet of Things. Another is AI ML, that data analytics, data processing, that gives you data analytics capabilities. And one of the other things is blockchain, which provides you the trust. So different kind of requirements that the farmers and the consumer of farm produce have. From the so farmers require so automation that can be done with sensors. They require the crop advisory, when what to sow, when to take out, what kind of things are projected, where to sell, that can be done by data processing. Then the revenue, financial matters, blockchain can help there. There can be P2P lending that can be enabled over blockchain and so on. As the consumers require quality assurance that can be done through sensors. Then they want to buy or sell at a particular time, especially the big big players. So Safal is the brand of Mother Day. Safal is peas, frozen peas. They don't want to buy when the prices are high. They like to buy when the prices are high. So they are interested in data-driven decision making, like when to buy. Okay. Yesterday, yes, last year, let's say the peas were available at 60 rupees a kg. But this time that might be the lowest. And last time that was the highest last time. So how do you figure out that when you should buy peas? So there might be market dynamics for that. Or if Lays want to buy potatoes, when should they buy? Or should they do future purchases, future contracts? So these kind of dynamics are there. And so that is here data driven things can come. And blockchain can be used for actually tracing, like from farm to fork, where how your food has traveled. जो organic खरीदते हो, how do you feel? Is it just the label organic? How do you know that it is organic? Example, right? You need some kind of blockchain, visibility from half on to fork. Otherwise, I can put in the cover of organic and sell it to you at double the price, and you still buy. And I'm just telling you, as a be curious, as where does this organic come from? Just by the link, right? So can't help it. But this is how the world is. Obviously, there are some more stickers there that it has been certified by this and this organization and so on and so forth. But which are those organizations? You don't know. These are all private organizations. Do they sell the label for money? You don't know. So the thing is, there needs to be traceability from farm to fork. Yeah, how this produce, as where it was produced, how it has traveled, how it has reached to me, and there should be entire traceability. Like you have traceability for Amazon packet, right? कहाँ से निकला? Bangalore warehouse. Then it has traveled to Mumbai. Then it came to Nagpur at this time, and then it got delivered to you. You have the entire trace. So that traceability needs to be there, and it has come from here and it has come to here. That whole thing needs to be is not there as of now. So how to do it? Nobody knows. So that's where the challenge is. But everybody will be interested if that problem is solved. Okay. Next slide. So here are some more examples of how imaging is helping. So if you take the satellite drone image, you can see that there is a water stress. That means that there is less amount of water in certain parts. Leaves are slightly yellowish, and you can see that one sprinkler was not working, and because of which the water was not getting delivered to that part of it. So that can be traced. Some things like that can be done through. So these are all done. Then there are different crop stages. Okay, and so when you should basically pick them up. So when you should do harvesting. So that prediction can be done. Then so there is how much nitrogen uptake is happening. So there is a part of the field which has not sprouted. Okay. So that can be traced by just looking at the images. Similarly, there is a lot of dew, which is basically so water retention is happening on plants. That means that there are some insects which are sitting there, because of which there is a lot of water. So you can figure out. So there are different wavelengths. So everything. So different wavelengths actually give you different sensory, different inputs, and because of that, you can basically restrict. You take images at different wavelengths and figure out what is happening, right? So, like for example, we have a different wavelength which is X-ray, which penetrates inside your skin, but doesn't penetrate inside the body. So it gives you a different information about your body, right? Whereas just the image, just the light that we have, which is not X-ray, gives you different information. But then that information is useful for certain type. Certain view, is the bone broken? Is there a hairline fracture? Can be known only through X-ray, not from the visible. Visible light gives you more different information, like what kind of clothes you have worn, which color clothes are there, is your hair white or black. So those kind of things can be from the visible light. You can't do it from the X-ray. So depending on the light source, you can figure out, depending on the reflection, you can figure out different things about the agriculture produce, and that is what is happening here. So a lot of such technologies are already there. There's a lot of database has been already been built, but you're not seeing anything in the post-harvest stage. Post-harvest area is completely open right. Logistics is completely open right. Storage is completely open right. Lot of automation, lot of optimization, lot of algorithmic uh, processing has to be done. And if you have some ideas, you can post it to the government, post it to the farm related companies, and they have money, but they want results. So yeah, next. That's all. So this is how the current stage of agriculture is. So a lot of things are happening at pre-harvesting, sorry, pre-sowing stage, at sowing to harvesting stage. But after harvesting, a lot of open areas are there. So storage, longevity, logistics, transportation, quality assurance. So all these things are ready. And I'll urge all of you, if you have time and inclination, then do work in this area. You can write project proposals. There are many funding agencies. There are banks interested. Government is interested. There are seed producing or other companies are interested. The companies like ITC, like Reliance, they have big arms of. So ITC is basically which brand? Annapurna. Annapurna or Ashirwad? Ashirwad. Ashirwad. Ashirwad is ITC. So you see that Ashirwad is like into many things. Ashirwad, you have pulses, you have flour, you have many different things. Like you have salt, you have sugar. So a lot of Ashirwad does a lot of things. So a lot of things are available under Ashirwad. Similarly, uh, Reliance has its own brand, and Tata has its own brand, Tata Sampann. So a lot of such players are there which are interested in post-harvest. But obviously they don't have time and inclination to do the field research because these research cannot be done in one go. It is not like prime number finding. You take the input, you go. It takes a lot of time and it has to be consistent over many years. So you have to do a research for 2, 3, 4 years. Then you can say that this works, this doesn't. And that is where I feel institutes can work because they have manpower, there are a lot of students, every year students coming in. And funding can be, and if you give them a proposal and if they like, they'll definitely fund it. So here I stop. And if there are any questions, right.
Yes, sir. Actually, most of the researchers are restricted to using the ready-made data sets. And when it comes to have implementation for real life things, so that time we need to have the photographs and everything from the means actually captured by us. So that is why preparation of normalized and pre-processed data set is also one kind of research.
Yes.
It takes another, set of time period.
But those kind of projects are also funded by government.
Okay.
If you just say that
Worked
we
on
create
data
data
set.
set,
Real data set.
real data set.
But if we have worked on data set, can we claim that this
Yes.
work is giving efficient results?
Yes. Why? So, and also there are many this like we have Punjab Rao Krishi Vidyapith. And they have their own data set.
Okay.
There is citrus. They have their own data set. Citrus research is there. They have their own data set. So the only thing is that you need to build relationships to get that data set. Because nobody is going to give the data. So they have worked hard for that data set. So they just don't want to spread it around. You need to build a relationship to get the data. But even for creating data, also government gives that.
Isn't it as a right now available for beauty researchers, like for India, particularly for Indian market and Indian soil type?
Yes, there is a lot of data available, and but then obviously, like soil survey office has a lot of data about soil survey, right?
But
Then
they say it is not digitally available.
some of that is digitally available, but most of it is not.
Yeah.
Most of it is not. So,
So as such, you need to
You need to create a database also.
communication.
admin building. So, but then obviously this whole exercise is happening so that now from moving ahead there will be a lot of such data available digitally. But as of now, the amount of data available is less. But obviously every institute is trying to do data capture and so lot of data will be available in next 2 3 years. By 2025, a lot of data will be available. So typically CS people don't want to move out of AC rooms. That's what it's with everyone, it's with us also. But CS has become we can say a service field. How many of you work on new compilers or new OS? Nobody. Right? If you are everyone is working on data processing is basically a function called away in Python. That is done by civil engineering people, that is done by mechanical engineering people. Itna programming support. So why any project be given to CSP? That always is the question. So now the time has come to move out of these things, go in the field. Agriculture has a lot of problems which are unsolved. There are many areas which are have unsolved problems. But just data processing problems are very few now that can be done by taking the data and sitting in a room and doing it. So things are changed, and so now with ChatGPT, even programming is also not required. Right? You can say in English and you generate. So things are moving at a rapid pace, and so everyone has to move out of that comfort zone if you want to get the projects. Projects are plenty, but two things need to be done. Projects you will get the projects only when you show the skills and that you have that required skills. And second, you will get the projects when you build a relationship, because pure CS projects are not existing. You have to build a relationship with agriculture college or medical college or any such institution where in that domain then you can get the project. But the domain expertise is something we can't gain now. We can't become agriculturists. We have to work with them so that we know that domain, know that vocabulary. So this is how the world is now. Difficult time for CS, slightly, but this will also change. So any other questions? Okay, so I thank you all for a patient hearing. And, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge and expertise on application and future of AI/ML in agriculture. You made this as a rewarding and great learning experience for all the participants. So, to felicitate our guest, Dr. Manish Kurhekar, sir, I request Dr. Neeta Thakre, HOD City, to offer the memento as a token of love and remembrance.
Yes, Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So thank you all.